Testing, testing, testing. Okay, I think this is working, but I'm not totally sure. So I would appreciate it if you can hear my voice. You would just write something in the comments box, which should be on the right of your screen, I believe. Testing, testing, testing. Okay, I think this is working, but I'm not totally sure. So I would appreciate it if okay. So this is all right. I'm seeing April and Laura. Appreciate you guys being here. This is wonderful to have you. And I will just keep an eye on the comments area. And I'm going to dive in, though, because I'm going to be in trouble with my beautiful wife if I'm late. Hi, Krista. Sweet. Carrie, thank you. All right. I think there might be a delay or something, but let's dominate this. Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate you guys coming to check out. Hi. I appreciate you coming to see this webinar, and we're going to talk about writing and hopefully getting grants that will make you a better teacher, the grants that will enrich your life, grants that will just be inspiring for your students to see you go and do cool things as a teacher. That's what I want. I want you to realize opportunities, and that's what I hope this will help you to do just a little bit. So real quickly, answer in the chat box for me why it is that you came here, and be as specific as you can. If there's a specific grant that you're working on, then tell me about that. Or you just want some other outcome, or maybe you're a glutton for watching people technologize their skills. Why are you here? Answer that in the comments, and I want to get some of that pre-data just for myself, because I'll try to gear what I'm doing towards you. I just think that this is like delayed. I've got it on my screen, and then I see you guys, which maybe I should just stop that. Okay. So I'm seeing that people are here because I don't see any answers to that question. Okay. So let's just get after it. I'm going to show you my screen here for a little bit, and then I'll jump back on, and then we'll go from there. I am getting your comments. It looks like there's just a little bit of a delay. So if you have a question in advance of the Q&A time, we're going to aim for Q&A time at about 4:30 on the dot, because I actually need to walk out the door at 4:45. So if you do have a question in advance of that time, please throw it in the comments, and that way they'll be all queued up, and we'll rifle through them. And they don't have to be just on the topic of writing and getting grants. It can be, if you want to ask me something else about what I write about, you can definitely do that. Okay. I just, I chose this topic because I needed to choose a topic to get us started. And this is really timely with the Teacher Innovator Grant coming up. So quickly about me, my career, many of you know if you follow my blog, I started in Baltimore, Maryland, teaching in 2006, taught middle school English there for 3 years, 6th grade, then 7th grade, then 8th grade. Took a year off while my wife and I lived in New York City, and she was finishing her undergraduate degree. Did like some substitute teaching at various schools, but also a ton of other temp work. And then we landed back in a small town in Michigan, despite kind of my preference for urban teaching at the time. We could not get a job anywhere except this small town. I got this long-term subbing gig, and I'm still here. I'm in my 6th year at Cedar Springs High School, and super happy about that. So here's some of my students from a couple of years ago. Also, obviously, I have a blog, and that blog is one of the great blessings of my life because it connects me with people like you. I have some great friends in my school building, but the blog, it's like it just allows me to have great friends, people who spur my thinking on, people who inspire me from all over the country and the world, which is like totally still feels like an out-of-body experience. And I do everything that I do hugely, like top reason on the earth is for these beautiful women. This is why I work hard as a teacher. This is why I work hard as a writer, because at the end of the day, I want to provide a great life for them. And I want to be a guy that my daughters can look up to. And so you got left to right, Hadassah, Marlena, Laura, and Crystal, my wife. Here's another picture from last summer. They're just like, they make me rich. Before moving on, I want to thank this webinar sponsor. I'm a graduate of the American College of Education, and if you are one of those people who, like me a few years ago, you feel that certificate expiration date, creeping in on you, that it's 3 or 2 or 1 years away, and you haven't done anything yet. You haven't committed yet to a master's degree because it's just, there's too many things to think about or it's too expensive. Then let me strongly recommend that you go to the URL on your screen and check out the American College of Education. You can simply fill out your information here. Someone from ACE will get in touch with you, and they'll tell you, they'll answer any of your questions and talk to you about when you can start and what it would cost. And in my experience with ACE, they're not pushy, and I just appreciate them because their mission is to provide an affordable master's degree, and I think that's almost like a matter of justice and fairness in a profession where we're required to get a master's degree, but we are more and more less frequently not compensated for that from our employer. Then I think we need more institutions like ACE that strive for affordability and quality. So ACE makes this webinar possible because they, for example, help me invest in the webinar technology that we're using and playing around with today. So thank you to ACE for that. Our guiding question today is about thinking, because really the more clearly that we can think about the task of grant writing, the more likely we are to submit a proposal that we just feel good about. And that's what I want you to feel. When you submit a grant, I just want you to feel like, you know what, even if this doesn't go anywhere else, I clarified my own thinking about X, about my idea for character, or about, whatever it is that the grant was about. I clarified my thinking around that thing, and I'm now a better, smarter, more effective person as a result. I think that some of these thinking strategies too have broader applications as well. If we can ask these 3 questions that I'm going to go over with you, the 3 questions for analysis, if we can ask those of our students, if we want to write a book, of publishers, I think it just helps us to connect with the people who hold the keys to what it is that we're trying to achieve, whether we're trying to achieve a lesson that really impacts our kids or acceptance into a grant program. During this webinar, we're going to use 2 case studies that I have personal experience with. On the left, you've got the Transatlantic Outreach Program, which is an all-expense-paid 2-week study tour to Germany from the Goethe Institute. And on the right, you've got the Teacher Innovation Grant from Character Lab, which I wrote a blog article about. You may be here because of this blog article that I wrote called Submit an Idea for Cultivating Character, Win a $10,000 Grant. So those are going to be kind of our case studies that we'll look at. But first, let's unpack what are the questions, the key questions, there's 3 of them, that we need to be asking as we analyze a grant opportunity and then eventually move into writing mode. Key question number 1 is, why is X organization doing this? So in any given grant, if you're excited about it, eager to apply for it, probably there's some huge value that this organization is providing for you. So the question is, why are they investing, in the case of the Character Lab grant, 10 grand before they fly you to Philadelphia for the PD, before they help you with any class materials you have? Why are they going to spend all this money? How does the Teacher Innovator Grant or the Transatlantic Outreach Program study tour, how does this help this organization achieve their goals? Sorry, I think the audio there might have been a little echoey. I hope that fixed it. And then, so secondly, what are their values? I mean, that's a different question, because it's how can you use your proposal to connect with what the folks who are going to be reading it value? So key question 1, why are they doing this, and what are they like? Key question 2 is a little bit negative, but it's important to think about, what is it that if they see this, if they see X in a proposal, it's gonna raise a red flag. I mean, I think about if I had the task of receiving hundreds of applications for something, and I was on a committee with other intelligent, educated folks, and we had to do this. I think before, I've never done this, but I think before, if I were doing it, I'd want to have a quick meeting. Okay, what are we, I'd make a little T-chart. What are we really, first of all, not wanting? So we don't want people who are just going to try to freeload off of this generous offer that we're making, right? So if I'm on the Character Lab committee, I'm looking out for people who just want to make 10 grand. They view this as this proposal as a lottery ticket. I'm trying to detect folks who haven't really put thought into this. There's no passion behind it. There's nothing besides oh, I saw this and I'm just shoot from the hip, see what happens. They also want to try to predict, and this is a lot harder, but they probably want to predict headaches. I mean, I'm thinking about that study tour, right? 2-week study tour with a group of teachers. You want to try to predict who is going to just be, the squeaky wheel of a potential group, because that could ruin the experience for everybody on the trip. But the same is true for other opportunities as well. Who's just going to be resistant to doing the work needed to make the grant successful? And then finally, typically grants have they have to be able to measure the impact of what they've done. And so part of that is typically you're going to see there's some type of post-grant communication component. And so they're going to try to detect who is just not that good at communicating. If they're expecting you to write something after, then they're going to be trying to see, are you a clear writer? If they expect you to speak after, lead a workshop, then they're going to be trying to see, do you have any experience doing that? Key question 3 is more positive, and this is our last key question. But what is it that if folks come across my proposal that they're going to be really pumped up about, right? So those are the 3 things that we're going to do. And as we start with our case studies, we need to realize that writing the best grant proposal that you possibly can starts with totally not writing. It starts with reading for those 3 questions, right? Why are they providing this? What will they be leery of? And what will they be pumped about? So let's jump over to our case studies. And I'm going to hit the Transatlantic first, and then the Character Lab. And I'm just going to try to check here. Okay, someone's writing for an NEA grant. So I love that. District offers a % back to teachers for grants received. Nice. Teachers School Illustrated Design. Great. And someone wants to apply for the Character Grant. Awesome. So when we go through these case studies, keep in mind that I'm, my goal is to just show you like how I'm thinking through these things, and hopefully you'll see applications, even like, for example, the person doing the NEA grant. So I'm at the Transatlantic Outreach page, and you can feel free to jump over to that URL if you want, or just follow along with me. But as I'm reading through here, I'm really super stoked if I can find an FAQ. That makes me immediately delighted, because that's going to be like just good information. I'm excited when I see an application form, because that's going to give me some solid info. So I think I've got that pulled up here. Okay, application forms are great reading. And okay, FAQs. So some of this stuff is not, eligibility, yeah, good. But that's just like real quick stuff. How do I apply? When's the deadline? That's nice. How much does it cost? This is starting to help me because it's teaching me what they're offering. And as I can see here, they're offering like basically an all expense paid trip. And after having gone on the Transatlantic Outreach Program, I know that this costs thousands of dollars. You're flying someone across the ocean and feeding them, paying them, like not paying them, but hosting them. It's a lot of money. So they're doing all this. Why? I'm still wondering why. This tells me when the study tours take place in the summer. Do I have to know German? Top caters to American and Canadian educators of social studies and STEM. So that's helpful. They cater to social studies teachers. So for some reason that matters to them. How can I improve my chances? Oh, baby. I love it. This is amazing. Now, there's two things that I can do according to this. I can submit what they call a lesson evaluation form. That's nice. I'm definitely going to look at that, try to do it. And I can also lead a workshop, but it has to be a top workshop. That sounds a little more intensive, but I'm going to look into that for sure. The catch, this seems too good to be true, they're saying. So it's a study tour. Yes, obviously, you're going to be learning lots of stuff. So they wanted to make sure that I'm smart. They're going to be trying to find somebody who just wants a free trip to Germany, right? So I don't want to write in my response here, I've always wanted to take a trip to Germany, right? I've always wanted to, win $10,000 for a grant. But they're going to be reading between the lines, just like I'm reading between the lines right now. So I just want to be careful. Like, I want to come off as a serious person writing this proposal. So I want to just be mindful of that. Okay, there's not a lot of info in this at all. So in this case, the application is where you get a lot of your cool stuff. So as we read through here, they give me some things that I can check out. Definitely, I would want to look at their mission on their website. And I would want to read all that really closely. This is all just sort of specific stuff. Okay, tell me about these attachments. They want a confirmation that I'm going to be employed next year as a teacher. So they value an actual teacher. That's important to them. They want a letter of recommendation. So I can start to think about that. They're going to want a resume. And here we have an important line that highlights specific contributions to social studies education, right? So in this case, they don't want just Joe Blow or Jane Doe social studies educator. They want somebody who's adding to the field. And so I need to start to think about, how can I show them that in this application? How can I show them that I'm a contributor? I'm not just a consumer. I contribute things to my field. And so they give me some examples. Relevant in-service workshops I've led, not attended. Creative lesson plans, curriculum guides, textbooks, publications, journal articles. So I'm going to have fun with that resume portion. And this is going to be a resume I'll probably not use anywhere else, because it's going to really focus on what I've done as a social studies educator. And the rest is just not even going to be in there. My resume is not going to force them to find how much I've contributed to social studies. It is going to be focused on that, and everything else is going to be gotten rid of, because these people are busy, right? They don't want to have to dig through my 48 speaking engagements. They want to be able to see like what's pertaining to social studies or whatever. They don't want to see my 30 years of teaching experience, just all the neat things I've done. They want to see specifically related to social studies. All right, I love this. They give me a statement of purpose, and unlike the Character Lab grant, they give me 750 words, which is nice nice and long, but they do have a lot of expectations here. So I'm going to have to be pretty efficient with my prose. And they're asking me about my motivation, etc. So I'm closely reading these things, trying to understand what it is they're looking for. And my purpose is I just want this stuff to be living in my brain. So that the deadline for this application is January, and I just want to have some time to just think. I just want this in my brain. I want to be revisiting it when I'm driving in my car. Okay, how can I show this? Or what can I do? Or, how can I, between now and the application deadline, how can I get a chance to present something to somebody, right? Can I ask my department chair if I can present at our next department meeting? Like, I'm going to be creative to try to, between now and the deadline, in this case, January, put forth the best possible application that I can. So that's the Transatlantic Outreach Program as a case study. And that's, I'm trying to read through and determine why are they doing this, which I didn't really look at their mission, so that wasn't really answered. And then also, what would they be leery of? People just wanting a free trip. And what are they going to be excited about? People who are contributing to social studies. Now, let's take a look at Character Lab. Okay, my Teacher Innovator Grant. Boom. Amazing. They're going to give me $10,000, right? And support and additional funding for any added supplies that I need for cultivating character strengths and skills in schools. And my deadline is November 2nd. They want people who have ideas for leveraging and growing students' character strengths, right? And I start to learn about their values right here. They believe that teachers are smart. They believe educators are doing cool things with character strengths. They believe that teachers probably know better than even researchers a lot of time what it is that can grow character strengths. And so they want, why are they doing this? Because they want to share those ideas with the world. So they're hoping to find promising ideas, and then what they want to do is help test the impact of these ideas. So Character Lab has an awesome page here. I've already learned a ton about why, right? And I even learned, what are they going to be pumped about? They're just going to be stoked if they have a promising idea in these proposals. And then they give me some examples, which is fantastic. A classroom-wide detective game to promote curiosity, a daily classroom routine to encourage compliments and promote kindness. This is great information for me because I can see that none of these so far are super complicated, right? An assignment about color and form. Oh, they're not even limiting this to just the core classes. This one sounds like it's right up the alley of an art teacher. A lesson on empathy to promote forgiveness. These folks are not looking for something epic. That's what I learned here. In fact, I'm kind of suspicious that if I were to submit something super elaborate, super epic, like all-encompassing, my whole school is doing the thing, that actually that might not hurt me. Sorry, that might hurt me. It might actually like put me back a little bit. Okay, so again, nice. This is important, I think. They're going to show winners how to evaluate the impact of their ideas. So they don't need me to show them that, like, I am a researcher. In fact, it doesn't even sound like they want me to tell them how I'm going to measure this. It sounds like they just want me to tell them my idea. What do I think will grow appreciation of beauty or vitality or grit in students? So that's key information. They don't even necessarily, some people think, well, Dave, you got this because you had a blog, but I can tell you that at no point in the process was kind of brought to my attention as something that helped me to get this grant. None of the other winners, to my knowledge, have a huge blog, and the fact that I have a blog was never brought up in my meeting with the Character Lab folks. And this even seems to confirm that, right? We'll help share the successful ideas with other educators. What they want from me, if I'm applying to this, is a great idea. And now this is also useful. November 2nd is the deadline, but this is what I love right here, okay? Because this gives me a goal. What I want what you want, if you're applying for this particular application, since it's a multi-phase application, is you just want to get to round 2. Your only goal in round 1 is to get to round 2. In this application, you want, in December 2015, to receive a happy email or phone call or whatever they're going to do, saying that, hey, guess what? You've got some work to do before February 2016. That's what's up. So if you have a multi-phase grant that you're applying for, then you want to just get to the next phase. Okay, that's the key. I think a lot of times people freak themselves out. They feel like they have to explain everything in round 1, but in fact, Character Lab is going to make it very difficult for you to explain everything, because if we take a look at, let's just jump over to the actual application here, because this is helpful. Again, they're explaining some things. There's really only 3 things for this grant that I'm going to have to write at any length. I'm going to have to list my any awards, grants, accolades that I have. And again, here I'm going to be honest, but I'm also going to try to be creative. I don't want that to be blank. They want a short biography. So here I'm just going to try to tell them, I'm going to again try to just give a short. Notice it's only 750 characters. Those disappear really fast. That's the hardest thing about round 1. And then right here, this is where it all happens. I got 1,000 characters to describe how I think up to 3 of these could be grown in my students, or how something that I currently do could grow character in my students. And it's worth saying that people who won last year, there were both folks who won with something that they had been doing. For example, my pop-up debates, I had been doing those, but there were probably just as many people, maybe more, who won with an idea that of something that they had not been doing at all. So it was just an idea they had, an untested, completely untested idea. All right, so the best thing that Character Lab has that I can closely read are the FAQs. They have a ton of them, and I'm just going to touch on a few. First, if you have, the Transatlantic Outreach Program grant that we looked at, they gave us 750 words, which is really short, but that feels like a book when you compare it to CharacterLink's word count, because you only in this first round get 1,000 characters to communicate what you're saying. So they give some recommendations here, and I would strongly recommend following these. Like if you're going to say social intelligence in your explanation of how you grow character, you want to quickly establish the abbreviation of social intelligence. And if you go to my this post that I wrote last Saturday, I think, you'll see my exact example and how I abbreviated other things, like even the word students, because 1,000 characters is not a lot at all. This one is amazing right here. Like, how will these proposals be judged? A couple things that we can key in on. They do want a good idea, right? These people have been studying character. Like, they're all really smart and dedicated to growing character. So they're gonna, they want an idea that seems likely to succeed at improving character strengths. They know that nothing's guaranteed, but they want something that's likely to grow the strength that you're targeting. The second thing is, though, they care about replicability, right? Could what you're proposing be picked up by another teacher in a school across the country and used? So maybe yours is art specific. I mean, one of the winners last year, she's a physical education teacher, and her grant is about ultimate frisbee. So obviously that can't be picked up by me, a history teacher, but any phys ed teacher who teaches, I don't know what grade level, all the way up to 12th grade, could teach ultimate frisbee. So that had a plausibility of replication. They do want to see that you're accomplished, right? So you need to be creative. You need to try to accomplish some things in the next month. If you feel like you've accomplished nothing, probably though you have, you just need to look back and reflect on what you've done. It wouldn't be a silly idea, I don't think, to communicate somehow that you you enjoy action research, you enjoy research in your classroom. That's part of who you are. Like in the bio, for example, that's probably a great place to mention that. And then they talk about settings, right? So for this one, when I was submitting my application last year, I didn't overthink it. Like my students are kids in a small town. They are very different from the students that I taught in Baltimore in some ways, and very different than probably elementary kids, but still, in my classroom and your classroom is totally legitimate. Those are all that I have time to dive into before the Q&A. So what I'm going to ask you to do is, please, if you will, submit your question right now, just in case we still have this delay thing going on. And while I have you submit your question, if you have a question about anything, be as specific as you can. I'll throw this up on the screen. This is just from the blog post that I put out last Saturday. This is a hypothetical writing schedule. So I've only been talking to you about reading. But my key recommendation for you with writing your grant is just to allow yourself plenty of sleeps. So each one of these I would recommend doing like on a different day, because you just want to sleep on this. You want to sleep on this a fair amount of times. Your brain does a lot when you sleep. I wrote about that recently too. And I just think like we think about stuff when we're driving home or whatever, and you want to have time to do that. Like I would not recommend just, one and doneing this. And yes, I'll mention this before we dive into the Q&A. If you need a certificate, I had somebody email me and their administrator or somebody told them, hey, if you can get a certificate from Dave that you did this workshop, if you can get something like that, you can submit that for PD hour. So if you would like that, if you need that, if you're in those shoes, if you believe that your district would honor that or your state, then just email me at dave@davestewartjr.com and I will shoot you a certificate. And it's going to be pretty, okay? You can count on that. It's going to be beautiful. And special thanks to ACE, obviously, before we dive into the Q&A. Please use ace.edu/DaveStewartJr. to request more information if you're in that boat. And finally, I'm going to actually answer a few questions that somebody threw my way in advance. And I want to give a little shout out to the good people of ePrep Woodland Hills in Cleveland, Ohio. That's where Cleveland is located. Thank you to them. I've been out and spoken at the Breakthrough Schools Network's PD 2 Augusts in a row now, and I love these people. They're doing good work. And I had a participant who couldn't make it to the webinar but asked me some questions in advance, throw some at me. And she's asking in particular about Character Lab's Teacher Innovation Grant. So are there certain schools or communities that Character Lab is looking to serve? Do they consider urban versus rural, SES, or schools serving mainly minorities? So if you look at TIG's page, they actually are totally fine with, like they're gonna, I mean, honestly, they want a great idea. And then, like, I imagine if they had a tie, like all amazingly good ideas, then maybe they would look at, okay, this person's at a Bureau of Indian Affairs school, and this person's at an urban, and this person's in the South, and this person's in the North. But I think first and foremost, based on my reading of that page, they care about the idea. But they do obviously consider your school, but I don't think, like, none of you should feel like, well, I teach affluent kids, so I'm not going to get this. Don't think that way, because I don't have any impression from their page that they think that way. She says, can you explain what this question means in the application? Describe your approach to building your students' character strength. Yes, that is where you're going to describe your project. That's where you need to, in so few words, show them what it is that you plan to do. So that, if you look at my blog post from last Saturday, that's where I submitted this, right? So this is what I submitted last year. And you can see how psychotically short it has to be. You're not trying to be William Shakespeare here. You're just trying to clearly communicate as quickly as you can, because it is so difficult to use 1,000 characters to explain an idea. But I also think it's really smart that Character Lab does that. My second to last question from them is the $10,000 to fund the cost of the project, or is it simply a reward for being chosen? It's compensation for you, because you're going to work your tail off. If you get the Character Lab grant, you're going to fly to, first of all, you'll be meeting with the Character Lab person through like a Google Hangout in advance of July of 2016 to kind of iron out your ideas and get you ready for an intense 2 days. You'll then fly to Philadelphia in July 2016, and you will have your brain pounded on by smart people, including Angela Duckworth, who gives you a 3-hour mini PhD, but also just by the Character Lab staff, who's going to be trying to turn your idea into like a legitimate hypothesis and develop that into a legitimate research study, right? So you're going to learn about different types of research studies and different types of control groups and manipulation checks. And, you better be a nerd, because it is awesome, but only if you're a nerd. Otherwise, you're just like, this is kind of a lot of work. But that's why they're paying you $10,000, because they believe in compensating teachers, which I think I think every decent sized district in the country could be doing something like this, like having grants for teachers to, test out their cool ideas. Okay, last question from here, then I'm going to jump over to my questions on the side. And I will dive into those. I see some, which makes me happy, because you're always afraid, like no one's going to ask any question. And so you're just going to be there awkwardly on the internet, talking to your computer in your classroom by yourself. And afterwards, you're going to realize the futility of what it is that you're trying to do online. But you guys are making that not the case. Thank you for helping me with my existential crisis. Do I have an advantage if the project I want to propose I've done before in a different school and had much success with? The reason I haven't done it at my current school is budgetary constraints. So here's why I think you might have an advantage. I think that you might have an advantage because you are going to be you're going to be just ahead of folks who are coming up with an idea right now in terms of your clarity of thought. Because that 10,000 character constraint that they place on you just forces you to be super clear and direct and to lay out what it is that you're going to do. It forces you. You really can't have an idea that has 1,000 million moving parts. In round one, they want to see it boiled down to its simplest form. So I think that like maybe in the bio section of Character Lab, of that Character Lab app, you could mention that you've done this in your previous school. That might be a good place to mention it in that allotment of characters, the whole 750 you get for that. So in short, I think that you do have an advantage, but that at the end of the day, let's go back to our 3 questions. Why are they doing this? They want to find great ideas. They want to discover what teachers have already discovered. And they want to help those teachers then to put their ideas through a respectable research process. And I mean respectable by people around the country, right? So not just, my colleague across the hall is going to say like, oh, Dave, I noticed your kids, they like to speak in front of class. How do you do that? What they're trying to do with my study this year, what they're trying to help me do, is like get some solid data. Like, no, let's measure what is their change in open-mindedness. How does this affect their vitality in terms of anxiety about public speaking? So that's what they want to do. They want to help me, and they want to help you, the question asker, to really test your idea. And then they want to help you to share it with the world, because that's part of their mission, as they express. They want to bring these ideas to bear, right? What you can picture the ultimate goal, perhaps, of Character Lab being, and I'm just inferring this right now because my project is midway through, but you can picture that they go to resources and someday, you know, your tool or your idea is here. Or, you know, they click on, you know, one thing I'm trying to grow this year is Zest. So they click on that and all of a sudden here's my idea, pop-up debate, right? And I've got some kit or something for people who want to get started with that. So I don't know if that really answers your question, but I'm going to stop ranting about that right now. Let's look over at some questions that we have. How do you find grant opportunities? Oh, wait, sorry. I will get to that one. April says, I'm only a fourth-year teacher. Do you think that hurts my chances when trying to receive grants? April, I think that depends on the grant. I don't know of any offhand, but I feel like sometimes, you know, I've heard of opportunities that are only available to people with less than 5 years of experience. So there's that to think about. And also, though, in 4 years, you know, you've learned a ton. Keep in mind that I think the average experience of a teacher in this country today is, gosh, sadly, it might be close to 4 years. I mean, 50% of teachers are gone after 2.5 years. So at 4 years, you're not like you're not green around the edges necessarily. But what you'll want to show is, you know, when you apply for a grant is for sure like some accomplishments. So you want to be creative and think about, well, what have you accomplished? What have you learned as a teacher? You know, if I were you, April, I'd be thinking about how can I, as a fourth-year teacher, just present to other teachers about something just once this year if you haven't done that yet. So you want to start to build those things because a lot of grants, they want somebody who can effectively share what they gained from the grant. So April, it depends on the grant, but don't rule yourself out at all. And April, what's the biggest mistake people make when applying for grants? I think just not thinking about the fact that there's going to be human beings like you and me sitting around in a room reading a stack of these. So in the application, how do you just get in the stack that's not going in the garbage first, right? If it's a multi-round grant process. If it's a single round grant process, how do you connect with what it is that they're looking for? These people just want to do a good job, like you and me. They want to choose a good grant. So the biggest mistake is not thinking from the perspective of those receiving our grant. How do you find grant opportunities? I'm a horrible one for this one, Emily. Absolutely horrible. I'm ashamed to tell you that both of the grants that I just case studied, I received an email. The first one from one of our school counselors, Daphne. She sends out these emails every now and then, like these forwards of opportunities. The second one from one of our district's cognitive coaches, Tanya, and she just sent it to my colleagues and I who work with character a lot. And she said, hey, like, you should maybe check this out. And I was like, oh, that is like a grant from my dreams, because that's exactly what I've been working on for 3 years. So I don't really know. Maybe somebody could share in the comments if you know of a place to find grants. Probably like the NEA, though, might have some lists. Krista. Oh, Krista says, this was really valuable. Thank you for the insights. And for that, Krista, I really appreciate you sharing that. If there are any other questions, get them in now, because I have a couple more minutes. But I also, no shame if you need to jet. I really appreciate you guys as readers of my blog, because you give me exciting things to think about and share. And I also just want to say, if you have a question that I wasn't able to answer or you want to follow up, feel free to email me, just dave@davestewartjr.com. I'm happy to discuss something longer on email. So there is that. But hey, it's 4:44, at least for me. I'm still getting like this lagginess on my other, like my school computers. I don't know. I'm hoping this all worked. It seems like it worked. If you have any feedback for me, I'd love to, you can shoot me an email with that too, how the webinar was. This is just exciting for me because I love my family, and it'd be great if I can get better at webinars and do less traveling away from Crystal and the ladies. Thank you guys so much. Best of luck. Godspeed on your grant writing efforts. Just, just apply, and then tell yourself like you achieved something by applying, because you'd be amazed at how few applications these people actually get. I think last year for the Teacher Innovation Grant, they had 250 proposals at the very beginning. So there are not thousands of people applying for these, like you might think. Oh, you can win 10 grand? Like everyone would apply for this. No, it's very few. So pat yourself on the back just for applying. Have a great rest of your week. Happy Wednesday evening to you, and be in touch if I can help you out in any way. Thank you.